everyone for being here with us. I would like to invite my two amazing founders, Masami and Pauline, on the stage with me. Okay, I think I'll take the corner seat. As you all can see, I'm old school. I still like the touch of paper and pen with scribbling and highlighting and all that stuff. I'm giving away my age, but that's fine. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today evening here. I am Kanchana, as Prantik has introduced me, and I'm truly excited to moderate this very special session as part of TiEmpowerHer series, presented by TiE Singapore and generously hosted by Bank of Singapore in their beautiful office. I'm very impressed with your office, by the way. And today's theme, which is resilience and impact in a founder's journey, is not only very close to my heart as a founder of a purpose-driven venture, vLookUp.ai, but it's also incredibly timely. Let me tell you why. Yesterday, I spent a chunk of my day looking at spreadsheets and budget sheets and planning for next FY for my little venture and asking few existential questions. And that's why I'm very excited to explore some of those existential questions with my fellow founders who have built their ventures with purpose, with great resilience and grit. And to me, resilience is just a small voice which doesn't show on glossy pitch decks or in LinkedIn, a polished LinkedIn post on overnight success story. It's actually what goes behind the scene. When beliefs and purpose and values are tested and questioned, when funding is uncertain, and when the path forward isn't always very clear. So today's panel is not about 5 mantras of success, how to create successful startup, not at all. It is about raw journey of founders and how our personal experiences shape us, who we become in that process, and why do we do what we do. On that note, let's hear from two exceptional female founders who have built and scaled purpose-driven ventures organizations, not only through their vision and strategy, but through sheer grit, as well as being rooted in why they started it in the first place. So please join me in welcoming Masami Sato, CEO and founder of B1G1, which is called, actually acronym for Buy One, Give One, and Pauline Wray, a polymath who has started many ventures, and she will introduce them. But I would like to introduce her as the founder of Emerald Climate, as well as executive producer of Rain Tree Media. Their journeys are incredibly distinct as well as inspiring. So let's start with a quick introduction. Masami-san and Pauline, and I would like to give you guys a challenge. If you can cap it in 1 minute max.
Should I go first? So imagine a world where every time something good happens in a business, something great happens in the world. That's B1G1. We help small to medium-sized businesses around the world integrate the act of kindness and measurable impact in what they do. So together, we create a better future. That's B1G1.
Thank you. That was half a minute. Well done. Well done for the most succinct founder introduction I've ever heard. Pauline, over to you.
Hi, Pauline here. I am some executive producer of Tree Media Group, which is a studio think tank. So if some of you have seen 11th Hour or Ice on Fire, which is a Leonardo DiCaprio climate movie, it was us that did it. So Leila Connors is the director. And she had a movie on CDR, just got involved, and Legion 44, which I premiere here in Singapore. And I decided to get involved because as part of the storytelling that I've been loving to do, explaining what fintech is over the years, I've formally joined the company. Then as I was looking at a lot of problem statements that reminded me a lot about the problem statements we had in financial services like cloud, and I'll explain that later, I thought climate, energy was seeing the same problems, the same transition, if you like. So remember the days, if some of you worked in tech, Tony Chu from MIS that used to say no to cloud. So we decided, actually encouraged by the government here, decided to open Emerald Climate to actually tackle some of these problem statements. And my co-founder is 25 years DOE, so Department of Energy in the US, because in February she received an email saying fork in the road from our friend. And yeah, and she decided to use her 25 years out of Singapore because otherwise we would have lost her. And no, so not exactly a minute, but just to give you an overview of the two things I'm working on at the moment.
Great. Thank you, Pauline. Thank you. And in preparation for today's session, I actually had absolute privilege of knowing their life journeys and stories. And to me, I always like to know the person behind the title of the founder, because founder can be a very glamorous title, but behind there's a lot of blood and sweat that goes and a lot of questions. First, speaking to Masami-san, what really struck out to me is that at the age of 20, she backpacked globally without knowing language a bit. She left Japan for the first time and just backpacked. And her story stood out to me in terms of few keywords, which was about courage. Of course, it needed enormous amount of courage, but dare I say also a bit of adventure, a spirit of adventure. And also what really took my attention is her one statement that she made in our intro discussion, and that will stay with me forever. She said, let's build something big by starting small. And she talked about the power of collaboration. So I'm curious to know, Masami-san, how have you leveraged your spirit of courage, adventure, and the power of collaboration to build and scale B1G1? Also, what I would like to know, what shift did you experience when you moved away from I to we? And you said, let's make it a collaborative movement and not my solo mission.
Thank you for the question. And so today is a very special day for me and for us, because today is the 18th birthday of our work at B1G1. And amazing thing happened today, because we decided to make this day not about us, but about the business people that we work with and the causes that we work with around the world in this movement, to create more than 374 million acts of kindness, measurable impacts in the world over the last 18 years. So our team said, why don't we let our members and partners around the world to pick one of the words out of 18 symbolic words in B1G1 and let them pick the word to share. And so at the moment in the social media space, there are many members who are posting why connection matters, why legacy matters, why ripples, impact and ripples matters to them, and why they chose to participate in this movement. So looking back, as I started, I didn't speak English. I didn't have a lot of money. I was just 20. I went on the backpacking journey. At that time, there weren't even access to easy phone calls to rely on others, or I didn't know anybody. But in the few years, I traveled around the world, and I came to Singapore as well as many Asian, Southeast Asian countries with just a backpack and not much money. Everywhere around the world, there were amazingly kind people who helped me and who invited me to come and eat with them. When I met with people and families who had nothing, and they didn't know whether they have enough food for their own children tomorrow, but they shared their meals with me and invited me to stay with them, learn with them, work with them. And that few years of backpacking journey transformed my perspective about this world, the magical world of amazing humans that care about the future of their own children and the societies, communities that they are part of. So years later, when I became a mom for the first time, I became an entrepreneur with 3-month-old baby on my back. I had not much money, no capital, and a young newborn baby. But I always believed that I was better off than so many other people who had difficulties. So during the time we went through some of the craziest challenges and difficulties, I always thought about the mothers and the kids and the people who shared their meals with me. And then I thought, I have everything. And so that kind of took me to today, but also led me to the work that we do to bring people across borders, communities, culture, but through the sense of compassion and kindness and connecting that with the spirit of entrepreneurship. Because entrepreneurship can transform our world. Businesses can touch lives when we have a different cultural misunderstanding or language barriers or all sorts of biases. Businesses actually spread around the world and make our lives better. So what if every business experiencing something good today can actually contribute to the global good? And that's the work of B1G1. And we were just so fortunate that there were many amazing entrepreneurs, business people who saw in the work that we do the gift of participating in this shared vision. So that kind of goes back to your question of what kind of allowed me to continue to be here today, 18 years later, but how the act of coming together mattered so much to my journey.
Thank you, Masami-san. What an incredible story of human connection. And your story reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. I have many as an artist, but this one I've always loved. It's called, "I have survived through generosity of strangers." This is really something that is very close to my heart. And the world is such a beautiful place where people, and I'm so glad that you are adding to those connections. Also, what I loved, how you reframed courage when I was speaking to you. You said that courage is not just about willpower, it is about perspective. What can appear as an act of bravery to someone is actually sometimes how we see the situation. It is as simple as that. It's not a very big, heavy word. It's just a perspective. So quite a few takeaways from you that I've pinned on my desktop and I'll remember. And coming back to Pauline, when I was talking to you, first of all, what a story of grit and resilience. I would love you to share what you have gone through with the audience and how you kind of showed up with resilience every other day despite all odds stacked against you personally and professionally. And the line that, again, I took away from you and will stick with me forever is, every day is a new day. Let's not plan for 20 years. Let's show up every day. And as a founder, sometimes it's very important. Just show up on the darkest days and not think of 20 years. So my question to you will be, Pauline, what part of your personal story quietly but very powerfully shaped the belief in the work that you do today?
Yeah, I'll get to it. I just wanted to say a comment on what you said. So I don't know if any of you listened to High Performance, the podcast. It's like sport, yeah. They just did one on with Muhammad Ali's daughter, and she actually spoke about the topic was pain, right? So when you don't look at somebody in the eye, when you don't bring them in, it actually, and you ignore them, it actually can cause a lot of pain. And that anxiety and that pain is mental. But weirdly, it can be fixed with like Tylenol because it actually hurts you physically. And what's really interesting about your story about the giving, about being able to think about, so they call it Muhammad Ali used to say, the person, the last in the queue at the back. And I think that's really powerful. And it's why your business is thriving, I think, because you get it back as well. And a lot of people don't think about that. Yeah, so, sorry, just, because I just listened to it. Yeah, so on my side, I think, so some of you may know, and there is, I had the opportunity to speak about at Founders Peak 2 years ago, almost. So 1st of July, 2023, I had a really bad accident, a pulmonary embolism. So I'm sure all of us travel here. I was was Rwanda with MAS and FinTech, FinTech Festival, and then Point Zero Forum. And I took some folks from the MAS to Chamonix, where it's my hometown, and we were trail running, and then took the flight. I was so tired. I told the air hostess, I just want to sleep. And I slept the 13 hours. My last text message to my husband was, I slept 13 hours. And it was 5:30 p.m. here. So he was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be jet lagged. And I took a few steps and basically collapsed, woke up again within seconds, but really weird stuff was happening to me, but I was enough to say, I don't know what's going on, help me. And they took me out of, it just feels like an elephant is sitting on your chest. They took me out and put me in an ambulance. And for those who have lived in Singapore and see, the ambulance don't go very fast here. And so I just thought, oh my God, I'm not gonna make it. But they took me to Changi Hospital. In the ambulance, I lost consciousness. But what happened that night, my heart stopped twice. They had to revive me. They had to put me in a life support machine. There was a 10% chance of making it. So my husband had to come with my 3 kids to say goodbye. But I made it from here. It was like that for 7 days. A person has 9 units of blood, and by the 7th day, they had put 30 units of blood because the life support machine was just not sticking. And so they turned it off, but luckily I held on during that time. The doctor had this amazing doctor in SGH, which said, you know, if you don't believe in God, to my family, like, this is the time to believe in God. Encouraged to put music, to speak to me, and it was going in, but in my unconsciousness, because when I woke up, I asked a whole bunch of questions, because I could sort of hear it, but it just went into hallucinations, because I was sedated. And so when I woke up, I was stewed up. I had like 17 things. I had, you know, every organ was being kept alive by a machine. And they also told me I would be paralyzed. And so I didn't really want to know what happened. I just knew that I could move forward. So I was in ICU for 47 days. During those days, every day, so initially, you know, when something like that happens, it's like, imagine, it's like when something bad happens, you go, why me? And you try to pity yourself. But then instead, I turned to Buddhism. So I asked my husband if I could listen to some of the podcasts. So Plum Village, just to accept and to be present. And then I moved forward and just really, just like what building a company taught me, because I started my company in 2004 and moved to New York. Everything was going really well. Opened Singapore in 2008. Incorporated in September 2008. Bailout plan went bust. My potential clients, Merrill Lynch, Dresna, they disappeared. So it was not looking good. And you know, we've had many of those since then. And what I decided to do, especially in ICU, you have this team of doctors, and 2 months before my accident, they realized at SGH that there was a lot of these cases happening, maybe because of COVID. And so they decided to put a multidisciplinary team, because it could be your liver, it could be your brain, it could be your heart, it could be your lungs, it could be anything. So I had this big team, and I would just, I would call them my stand-ups. And every day I would just focus on that day. The morning, I would meditate. The afternoon, I would imagine myself moving. And little by little, I just got there. But because at the beginning, when I was imagining, how am I gonna, like, we had tickets for, Hamilton, And I was imagining my husband wheelchairing me on the air tank and stuff, and I would just collapse. So I couldn't think very far. I had to really just deal day by day. And I think entrepreneurship, that's what it taught me, right? Because some days are really bad. And yeah, I think without it, I don't think I would be here. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I know every time you share that story, it's like reliving that trauma and that experience, but thank you for sharing that with us. It's, again, an incredible story of willpower and mind, and also living day by day. And that reminds me, I'm an avid trekker, so I go to mountains, and often my guides have always told me, only focus on next 5 steps. Don't think of going to the peak, but then you'll be like too anxious. Just focus on next 5 steps and you'll reach to the peak. And that has helped, and I have gone to Kilimanjaro peak by just focusing on 5 steps. That's what, like, day to day. Let's look at it today. And what I learned from both of you, how your deeply personal stories, you have turned them into a motivation for your venture. And you have done it not just by blindly pushing through, but by being present, by being anchored in your purpose, by being anchored in your experiences, and kind of learning from along the way. And sometimes mortality can be a very big push in life, and in a very tiny way I have experienced. vLookUp was born during my chemotherapy days when I was going through my cancer treatment. So mortality is a big reminder of life and purpose, and I think all 3 of us share that common purpose of how we came to realize, what do we want to do and why do we want to do it. And I love that part of our story. But on that note, let's take a trip to the dark side of being a founder. Yeah, not really dark. Okay, not the Dark Knight Rises kind of dark, but all founders have what the F am I doing moment, isn't it? Which is like our existential doubts, full bit questions. Do I really have it? What it takes to make it work? Does the world even understand what am I trying to do? Does the world even know the relevance of what am I trying to do? And many such days, and I'll share my personal coping mechanism. Very simple, few glasses of wine. The world is perfect. After a few glasses of wine, all existential questions sorted. The mind says, let's think about it tomorrow. Let's be happy, listen to some music, and done. But I'll be curious to know about you guys, that during those moments of crisis, what does your inner critique say? We all are very perfectionists as founders. What do you hold on to when everything seems to be falling, and how do you negotiate with yourself in those moments? So I'll start with Masami-san.
Okay. In earlier days of my venture, when I first started my first business, and I went through so many physical challenges, like no money or like that. At that time, I could deal with it quite positively. So, for example, in the first business I was running, it was a food company leading up to B1G1, because food was my initial passion, that, food brought people together. I enjoyed eating all different cuisines, so I became a food entrepreneur. And at one point of time when I was running that company, one day I was totally stuck because I didn't know where the money was coming to pay the rent the next day. So at that time, I was pregnant as well, because unexpected the second pregnancy happened after I started my business. So I kept going. So, I thought about all of the possibilities of how to solve this problem. And at that time, I had some ideas, and one was to become homeless. So I moved out of the house and then lived among the cardboard boxes in the warehouse, and hidden from the landlord to keep going, so that we can pay the kitchen rent, commercial kitchen rent by not paying home rent. Or a few months later, I realized that I was having a baby any moment. So actually, my second child, my son, was born in the commercial kitchen sink. So, wow. Yes. So I overcame all sort of challenges in my early entrepreneurship time, still feeling quite positive about what was kind of going on, because I still felt that I had everything. I had a healthy body, I had creativity, I had a lovely family. So I kept going like that. But then some of the most challenging time that I experienced happened to me quite recently. And that wasn't the big physical problems that caused the existential crisis for me. It was when we were, like a few years ago, we kept growing our initiative, and I've been an entrepreneur. So I know how to grow a business as an entrepreneur. Starting out with idea, get the initial small team together, happily work together. I would do everything because I'm a doer, and work joyfully with a small group of team members that I can collaborate with, work with, communicate with every day. But when you are running a business to this level, what happens is you hit the barrier around, like when you have 12, 15 team members, you will kind of start to feel that there is a barrier you cannot go through because your way of doing business doesn't allow you to go to the next level. And I started to doubt myself as a CEO to run this venture because of my personality of wanting to be a doer. Helping with everybody's job every day, making sure I'm connected with every person, every customer, every member, every project, every cause. And I hit the wall. And so that losing the sight to, do I really have what it takes to take this initiative to the next level? Really because of this, I felt totally stuck. I didn't know how to move. So at that time, what happened was because of the people around me who believed in me. When I couldn't believe in myself, people around me said, "We believe in you." And amazing mentors, amazing supporters, everybody kind of came together to help me learn what I had to learn to go to the next level of leadership. And I'm still work in progress. I don't think I tackled this fully yet. Some of you in here who are charter members might go like, "Oh, I can help her." But I think when that happened, the people around me, how we connected and worked together really mattered to me. So sometimes we might run out of our own gas. But when we are doing what we do, knowing how much it matters, then often when you don't have what it takes, that's others around you who will help me to pick yourself up again. So I'm just so grateful that we are part of this amazing entrepreneurship community, because we understand how tough to be an entrepreneur and leaders in an organization. It sometimes can be very lonely. So sometimes it's the others around us who would actually give us another uplift.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yes, we have to lift each other up because we have gone through all those dark days and questioning days. And Pauline, what's your coping mechanism in addition to wine? Now, wine is mine.
Yeah, so I think, again, I think I would say network as well. We have, when I came here, the same, right? I didn't have an office. I didn't have employees, and you know how it is. Like, you're here, and then London arrives, and it's already 6 p.m. and so you're not really communicating, right? So my customers became my network very early on, and just generally networks. We've got a lot of network. Tech OGs, women, male, and I think that really helps because it's you don't have all the answers, but when people have trust in you, and honestly, I think with the accident, for example, it sounds so weird, but I did feel like this power that was driving me, and my husband, which is a complete introvert, he did something that I would have done. Like, I'm the type of person, if you send me a WhatsApp message, 2 words, I will reply with 20,000 pictures. And I'm like, I'm very social. And, but so he did that. He had this outward WhatsApp message, and all he was getting was positivity. And I think I felt it. And that's really me, and very lucky as well to have, I mean, I think when you build a network like that, you have a person that helps you for, you know, for something very specific, another for another area. It's never the same person, right? And because you have those moments, I think in entrepreneurship, you have moments. So my co-founder, 25 years at DOE, I think her expectations that you go to a meeting and you get what you want. And I said, no, you get what you need. You don't get what you want. What you need is clarification, maybe more questions, maybe a bit of answers, but first of all, you get to a no very quickly, so you don't waste your time, but you get what you need. And that is really the framing. And also because what's really heartwarming is that from the outside, everything looks fantastic. And sometimes I would go to somebody that I'm like, oh my God, that person has sorted out. And I sit down with a coffee and I go, look, I'm having this issue. And then they tell me how horrible life is for them. And it's great because you know that it's not you, right? That's the worst place to be. And also if you're prepared to grow, then you can grow into it as well.
Thank you. That's the power of network. And here I'm going to give a small plug-in for TiE. That's what it's about. Build your own network, join the network, and this is a very powerful network. I absolutely love it. On that note, first of all, thank you for sharing your incredible stories. And to me, knowing them, talking to them, and this panel became about how our life experiences shape us, what we endure, and who we become in that process as a founder, behind the title of the founder, and how do we find our purpose. So great knowing and sharing our stories with each other. On that note, I'm going to open the floor for a few questions.
So first of all, thank you, Kanchana, for bringing that out from both the wonderful ladies at the floor. Pauline, of course, we met each other at that Kigali event at Point Zero. And I had made a mental note to catch up with her when we were back in Singapore. And it just so happened that before Singapore FinTech Festival, I reached out to her and said, let's catch up before we meet each other in a crowd. And then I heard of what happened. So seeing you from a distance go through that journey and where you are today is just amazing. Thank you. Right. I have a question for you, Masami-san. When you talk about when you talked about those people who don't have anything, but they're willing to share everything without knowing where the next bread is going to come from, what do you think prompts them to think and do that? Thank you.
I think I'm very curious. I'm introverted, by the way. So when I was growing up, I was very quiet, and I would never raise a hand in the class to ask questions. Like very intimidated by that. But today I speak a lot in public too. So that my perspective on many things changed because of the things I actually discovered along the way. So when I was younger, I questioned this. My parents were working really hard when I was growing up. They were never home. They were my dad was trying to climb the corporate ladder, but it was very challenging because he didn't have the equivalent education, as his colleagues. So I grew up wondering why we were working so hard and trying to get more when we weren't feeling fulfilled by having more. When I went to some places when actually people had far less than what my family had, some of those people who were inviting me to share in their food seems to be extremely happy, even though they are giving away what they have, which it seems to be a painful experience, because giving is a parting what you have with what you have, so you have to lose something. And that was a conundrum for me at the beginning, and wondering, what are we doing? But then what I also discovered in that joy of giving was that instead of saying, oh, you don't have enough, so I don't want to have your thing because you have less. When I felt grateful for receiving and sharing in that joy of sharing the meal together, that created everybody happy and felt connected. And so during the exploration period, I experienced many communities. I became a farmer and worked with farmers in Japan. So I did a lot of things, right? Wherever I went, the places where people were happiest and it seems to be most fulfilled were not the places that had the most amount of resources or wealth, but places where people in the community were caring and giving and helping and supporting each other, because there was this inherent sense of connection and trust in what they were doing. So when something difficult happens to someone in that community, people will come together to help each other. Where in the getting environment, let's say some companies that everybody's trying to get more than each other, even though people may be well-to-do, in that environment, quite often people may not be feeling fulfilled and happy. And so I realized that there is amazing simplicity in the power of giving, that sometimes people who are giving and sharing are the happiest people, regardless of how much they had. But when we start comparing what we have with people who have more and start feeling that we need to have more to feel fulfilled, then it's never ending conundrum of trying to get more. So I guess like when people have nothing, right, like starving to death, of course, the bandwidth for them to share and give could be limited because of the physical conditions. But beyond that, everybody has something that they get to share, whether it's time, it's listening, it's smile. And the more people are giving, the happier they seem to be.
Thank you. It's so amazing to hear you lovely ladies talk about your personal journeys. I'm totally mesmerized by listening. When you're talking about your hospital experience, I had goosebumps, literally. So I want to talk about a little bit about giving that you mentioned, and it's really true that you feel happy when you give. And to that, I really feel that there are two ways in which you can lead your life. Either you think your life is a whole or a whole. One is H-O-L-E, the other is W-H-O-L-E. So when you think your life is a whole with the H, then you think, what can I suck from around to fill that void? But when you go with this idea of W-H-O-L-E, then you feel, I am wholesome, what can I radiate out? And I think that's the difference. So thank you so much. But we always have to make some compromises, and you hinted that you need to lose something to gain something. And I would like to invoke Indra Nooyi here, who always says that women can't have it all. You can't have your family, your career, and self, all three of that in one. So did any one of you face that conundrum that you can't have it all? That's the first question. And related to that, another question, were there men in your life who helped you to get to where you are now? So thank you so much.
Who would you like to ask? Maybe Pauline, you start, then I'll chip in.
Yeah, I always find that question a little bit weird because it's the same with men, right? I mean, my husband, he's like, next week he has to fly to India and he's gonna miss the breakfast that he's never missed at my 10-year-old's class, right? And he hates it. But I don't think, yeah, I don't know, like, so I, when I opened my company here, 3 months after I was pregnant with my first one and I had 3 kids, and I had a similar situation. Oh, I didn't have a baby in the kitchen, but I was in Republic Plaza, 58th floor, my office, and with the third one, and finished a pitch at 11:30 in the morning. In a spider phone, it was 10 years ago, so to CBA in Australia, and then I kept on putting mutes, and I started having contractions, left at 11:30 and gave birth at 2:30 in the afternoon. It's just my poor doctor. So I don't know. I don't see it like that. I think sometimes you have to give up stuff, miss stuff. You just have, if you're happy with it, depends how you want to be, right? Like I think I'm on a lot. But then my work-life balance is I can be in Europe, I can see my parents more. I see my parents almost every month because of my travel, and I'm so far away, and I just make it work. What I've done is that I've included the kids, so they know almost everybody. When I was at BCG, I would bring them to the office, and it's just bring them in, let them know what they're doing, but I never saw it like that. And I also encourage, so my first big hire, which for whatever reason, my co-founders in London, they wanted to go through an agency. She had a few miscarriages. She was quite senior, older than me, French, American, amazing, BNP Paribas, capital markets. I couldn't believe she applied for this job. And then she had a few miscarriages, and she came to me and she got the job, and she goes, Pauline, let me just tell you something. I'm actually 3 months pregnant, but I had a few miscarriages and I was that big, 8 months, and I really needed her. And but I knew that that wasn't going to be a problem, right? And we supported each other, right? She gave birth in November, so she was out until Chinese New Year, and then again in the summer for 2 months. So I don't know. I've never seen it that way, really.
Yeah, I think what I'll add, my perspective, and as a founder of a mentoring platform for women, where actually mentors are men too, I'm often asked this question. I don't think that's the right framing of question, can women have it all? The question that is that, what do you want? Right. You know, that becomes the most important question. I feel, and as Prantik was saying, that I'm also an artist, and I'm someone who has had squiggly career, who spent many years in corporate world, quit one day and joined art school with children half my age and tattoo, and they said, what's this auntie doing here? And continued having a parallel career of two, a part-time corporate consultant and an artist for 10 years. I think the right question is not whether I can have it all. The question is that, what do I want? So that I put my energy, and am I wanting it from who I am rather than following a framework of the society? So Indra Nui's comment, I've always seen it more in the context of the framework where the success is defined by corporate ladder. So to me, the most important thing is that, can we give women the space where they can decide what do they want, who they want to become, and not try to fit them into frameworks and kind of boxes? Ask your question about men. Yes, many. I mean, I've had amazing mentors, and that has also been inspiration behind why I started vLookUp.ai, because I wanted to give the same access to every woman in the world using technology. When I joined art school, I was a complete oddball, you know. This corporate 12 years of corporate experience landed in art school. I couldn't even draw a line. And but I had teachers, 2 male teachers, who saw and they said, you have a very different way of looking at it, Kanchana. You have a very different way of looking at material. So don't focus on drawing the best picture. Go with what you like to explore. And that was the spark that has continued in my creative journey. So yes, many men, women, all of them have helped us.
Oh, yeah, I would just add on the partner as well. Like, I think my husband he's definitely the other half, right? Like, he plays a big role. Without him, 3 kids, I don't think they would be as sane as they are, because yeah, it takes 2.
Last week, I was at Osaka World Expo and participating in the panel at the Women's Pavilion. And the first question I received was, have you suffered gender bias? And that negatively impacted you? And I first responded and said, oh, I don't think so, because being a woman benefited me in many different ways along the way. Then the two other panelists then started to respond to that question with numbers and the case studies about how female receives much less funding or less opportunities. And I reflected on that and said, oh, that's interesting information. And then I pondered on that and then realized that, well, I didn't really think I was compromised by the gender bias or situations, right? But actually, as a woman, we have a physiological difference. So we give birth, or like we take care of kids, or so. Actually, in a sense that yes, like being a female had some physical difference, and that may have compromised the way I could kind of like come to the professionalism, right? Like in some ways. But luckily, during that time of taking care of my own kids, I had amazing men around me who supported me, including my husband. So coming to 50, so I turned 50 last year, and I realized that this is the best time of my life because my kids are gone. My younger son became 20. And since they are no longer here, I could do whatever I like. And so I feel like I'm, enjoying this another phase of my life as a woman leader. And that kind of gives me many different advantages as well. But that's why, like, I think undeniably biases exist or physical differences exist. The discriminations may exist in so many different ways that the world is full of biases because we have different perspectives and different experiences. However, again, what we see in that and how we would do things to impact what we can control rather than facing and battling with what we cannot control and being frustrated by that. So I feel grateful for both men and women and all other people with differences for showing up and doing what they do, because that inspires me as well to keep going. Thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
So just an observation, I may not be right, but in many cases when I read about women entrepreneurs, the empathy, emotion, that seems to be a driving factor for a woman to become an entrepreneur. Is that right, or what do you feel about it?
I've got a brother and two sisters. They think I'm crazy. I think it's, I don't know, and I think it's a personality thing, right? Always wanting, I don't know, it's a personality thing. It's how you're wired as well. I think if I was to enter the perfect company and they would give me the perfect product to sell or to grow, I would probably want to build something new. I just don't know what it is. It's just like that. But so yeah. So I'm not sure if it's a gender piece or if it's a personality piece. Yeah.
Can I add to that? I think women are intuitively more emotional and they're not afraid to show it. I think men are conditioned to kind of keep your emotions under control. So I think even when you get an opportunity to kind of say something, there is, I think it's the hard wiring that you hold yourself back. But I think as you see that without EQ, it's really difficult to kind of move ahead, whether it's men or women. And I think I'm really waiting for that day when we don't have this divide, and we don't have this question that, oh, how can women do it all? The men don't get asked that question. Yeah. So yeah, so that's
So we'll park the time for one more last question, but before that, I have surprise questions for both my panelists, and those are going to be very quick, rapid-fire questions. Again, less than 1 minute cap timing. So Masami-san, for you, have you ever faced the dilemma of compromising with your ideology while trying to scale, get funding, and all that stuff, where you are told that, okay, get away with all this giving part and money will be easy?
I think that happened many times. Like I rationally thought that I had to make big compromise to be able to make something happen. But I think when I kept going on in that path, quite often I hit a deadlock. And but I think everything happens for a reason. So that is part of what was meant to be. But nowadays, I also consciously try to follow joy. Because when you follow joy, sometimes the 10 times the impactful outcome can happen without you going through this dilemma of going through and rationalize and then going in the cycle.
Very true, absolutely. And Pauline, a bit of political question for you. You are in climate and sustainability space, which is a highly politicized space, isn't it? So your quick take on how do you navigate the politics of sustainability and climate?
Yeah, so because it's not my background and I don't have a million PhDs like most of the people that I sit with, and I think so. The problem statement that I saw and why I got into it, first of all, was driven by Ravi Menon. He was, because I was in Africa and then in Zurich, when I was in hospital, he sent me quite a few videos of encouragement. And so we caught up and I came out, and then he was telling me about Ministry of the Future. I read it like homework, and then we started developing some content, some panels, and I saw something that I saw. I mentioned earlier with cloud. I remember every bank you would go, they would say, we can't use cloud in 2010, 2011. We can't use cloud. I'm like, but where does it say? Oh, the MAS says no. Where does it say? It didn't say anywhere. And then the prime minister came out where we're going to be, a digital nation. And you're going to be a digital nation, you kind of need cloud. And so the MAS came out with a statement saying, oh, there was a misunderstanding. It actually says that in all the press releases, and I see exactly the same thing, right? I see I see this chicken and egg situation whereby you don't have. I mean, there's a product where, say, carbon removal, for example. There's a product that we want the private sector to invest in because it's the sewage system of this invisible thing, and you get nothing for it because you're removing air. And so you need to do incentives, right? You need to do incentives, and you need to see, it's like 3 people going to the gym. One goes to be fit, the other one goes to meet people, the other one's to get out of the house. Incentives are very important, and then you will get the outcome. And then, it could be, hey, you're gonna buy 1 ton of CO2 for $750, which when you can buy it for 5, maybe the incentive is some R&D tax, like we can be so creative. Remember that in 2015, we had no innovation labs, no nothing, and we said to the banks, to Singtel, StarHub, and so on, create an innovation lab. We'll give you grants. We'll pay some of the salaries. We'll pay $300,000 for POCs. And so that pattern recognition with Ravi, we're like, we see it. We completely see it. And then the film, why I got involved with TriMedia, it's because it tells a story from a human ingenuity perspective. It's not politicized. It's not, if you start throwing at me articles, 6-point this, I have no idea. I see it as, if we're going to, if some of this instrument, if we need to build a sewage, and this is a financial instrument that it's going to be 10% of our tools to get us through the, through that. how do we incentivize? How do we build for it? How do we bring clarity? And yesterday we had an amazing session at AmSham. I mean, one of the things that, you had Genzir, you had Temase, you had Ravi as well. And for those who've read Ministry of the Future, the stuff that's happening there, it's happening, right? And I think it's a very powerful book. The first chapter is in India. There's 20 million people, 2 million people that die, I think, because of the heat. And then it just brings this horrible reaction to right, from people, a little bit like COVID. And Ravi was saying, look, I mean, maybe that's what's going to take, which we hope not, for people to move. And at the same time, if it gets to that, businesses are not building with carbon as a line item that they have to pay for. So it's going to be very scary. So for me, I don't see it as a political, as a climate. I see it as a financial instrument, and also technology, innovation, human ingenuity, and that's the rhetoric I'm trying to use, because politics and stuff, I mean, I stay away.
Well said. Objectivity rules over all kind of politicization, and of course, that's the need of the hour, definitely. And on that note, Sudha, do we have time for one more question, or are we packed? Okay, we do have time. Last two.
Hi, my name is Galu. I'm running a early stage startup called ClimaCap, which is also in the climate space. Nice to meet you. My question is that about your personal experience as an entrepreneur in the context of your business, where you have then anchored yourself in a phrase where we say progress over perfection, which is actually a motto that I kind of hold for this month of June. Where have you seen in your business building journey where you see the motto applied in your business situation, whereby actually, if I just continue a little bit what you say, showing up every day, but in the context of the business building, on the product creation, whether it's a customer acquisition, where it does not have to be 100% perfect, but as long as perhaps 60, 70%, you just move. I just would love to hear your personal experiences, because I think that's one motto that I've kind of been learning or trying to apply for this particular month. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's an important question, because it applies to the perfection over progress, but also how small and big. So when we try to do big thing and try to do it perfectly, we cannot make it happen right away. So we wait, we procrastinate and wait for the big moment to be able to do it perfectly, but in a great way. But when we are okay, or when we see the value in the small things are easy to do because we don't need to wait. And so the spirit of Power of Small, like we apply it everywhere in the work that we do too, because if it was about changing the world, no single company would feel that they would do something about that because they are not ready. They don't have enough money, they don't have a time, they don't have a big team. But when we make it small, that giving 1 day of education to a child just costs 20 cents to help this child to get to school, then we can do it today. But as a result of being able to do that one small thing and to feel the success in making that happen and the gratitude in being able to do so, that takes us to the next moment and feel proud and feel fulfilled along the way. So the perfection and the scale of what we try to make happen, when we are okay to let go of that first, but start with something small. And even though it may not be the perfect, but we start doing it, then there is a better chance of us getting there. But the perfection, the perfect picture of the amazing vision and the future you see, and what makes you drive like what you are doing every day, like knowing that as a North Star, so we know where we are heading, but appreciate the little moment and the milestones and the progress we are making is really the way that creates this complete picture of meaningfulness of being in business, I think.
Yeah, I have another favorite quote on my desktop. I have a lot of post-its on my desktop. One of them says, "Perfection is the enemy of done." So perfection is the enemy of done. So whether you believe in done or you believe in perfection, you have to choose. And perfectionist, I mean, I know women are often there's a title which is given to us is that, oh, women are perfectionist. I've never understood it because perfection is a construct. There's no real thing called perfection. So as long as you feel that, that has been my motto. So I launched the MVP in 7 months. I wanted to launch the MVP first and test it rather than trying to make it a perfect first time platform because that's not possible. I have to build it with the community. So let's launch it first, start embedding users' feedback, users' experience, and then keep doing incremental progress. So that has been my motto, that I don't look at perfection. I say, as Masami-san has shared, how are we making the incremental progress in the direction that we are moving?
Yeah, and I think, especially when you work in tech, that's exactly it, right? I mean, it's trial and error and feedback. I think all of us were, from 1999 we started using Apple. We made their products great because you need that. It's otherwise you're not going to make it better. What I've been a lot of the times when I get stuck. So I was helping EDB in 2022 with a venture in the bunkering space of all spaces, and they were building a credit engine, and we were like talking to so many amazing people, and we wanted to build something. And then I had a coffee with Joel. He was one of the first. He's ex-PayPal, and he's one of the first Grab Financial people, and he actually built Grab Financial. And he told me, like, we started it was an Excel spreadsheet. And that was so nice to hear. And it's true in so many cases. So it's really good to do the research or try to speak with those people to see, how did it start? How did you do something in 6 months? Because it's not, if you wait for perfect, the time can pass, and it's also going to be super expensive. Like that, what's it called? Tech debt that you build. It's painful.
Okay, so one last question.
So I'd just like to say a word of thanks to the truly inspiring stories from three ladies. I don't have a question, but if you allow, I'd like to summarize and see if I got your messages correct. First is it is in giving that we truly receive. Forget the gender and other stupid biases. Focus on what you can control instead of what is beyond your control. Start small. Progress, not perfection. Understand trade-offs. Choose wisely and live your life.
Yeah.
Very well said. I must say that you made my job very easy, so I don't have to do that now. That part has been taken care of. So any last words from anyone? Any questions before we all head out to enjoy some nice food, Prantik, isn't it? I mean, we don't want to come between you and the food. I know it's dinner time. Yes.
I just wanted to say, firstly, thank you so much. Amazing stories. I think everybody said that. And Masami-san, I've heard you before, and I've heard Paul before, because I've been a member of Buy One, Give One for the last 5 years. So I know it's an amazing platform. And actually, 2001, I enrolled my kids into it. So every time they start a new activity, that's the activity they contribute towards. So it's been a great practice. So it was, again, wonderful to hear you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ritu. Thank you again for being with us tonight. Hopefully, we tried to share our raw, authentic stories, our life journeys, and why we are who we are because of that. And thank you for giving us your listening ear. And hope somebody, some founder in this room today felt that you are not alone. It's fine.